We started the lab in 2011 after a research project we ran at Victoria University found that a lot of these kids were having trouble transitioning from primary school to secondary school, and there wasn't a lot of support available for them at that time. And we also realised that these kids were highly intelligent with unique worldviews, and what we're trying to do with the lab is help them to achieve their potential in life. The lab is a place where individuality is celebrated. The top-down cookie-cutter kind of approach that you often see in schools is something that just doesn't work for these kids. So what we're trying to do is to do something that complements that outside of school hours.
Each lab session can involve typically up to about 20 participants, and there must always be two mentors in the room. The two mentors are there to ensure that all of the kids can be looked after and receive the tuition or the assistance or the guidance that they require. And it's also about providing supervision, always having at least a mentor to support another, to be a witness and to ensure safety in those rooms. When the kids arrive, they're free to take a seat wherever they wish. They can sit with other kids, they can sit on their own. They really choose where in the room that they want to position themselves. Some kids come in with existing projects that they wish to continue. They might be making a game, learning a programming language. Other kids might come in just wanting to socialise and play games. Some wish to be happy to come in and play games on their own and just watch what the other kids are into, to learn a little bit about how others use mods in-game, for example, or others want to play network games. It's entirely up for the kids to direct their own play, their own social interaction, and the role of the mentors is to support them in that the pursuit of those activities. Eventually, as we hope, they will form a team and work on a project collaboratively, and that's when we start to see real strengths in the kids' ability to work as a team, to form friendships and relationships, and also to start to see projects that they might want to conceive that they can do together at a future time. Some kids attending the lab fit in straight away. They're into IT, they may already have experience in programming or coding, and they will quickly find themselves amongst a group of kids building a complex game or doing some other forms of coding. And these ones tend to get on board very quickly, and they get the supervision and the assistance that they need from mentors really to start to explore and develop their interests in IT. Other kids may spend a lot more time getting used to and becoming comfortable in that environment, and that's equally important. It's just as important as learning new skills in this environment. For these kids, it's about finding a way to feel part and accepted in a new group of children. They may take weeks or even months just listening in, watching in, before they feel comfortable to engage in whatever way that they choose to. Again, it may be starting to play a game with others, or at least sharing with others what they're playing, and in some cases, just starting to talk with others. But that's the breakthrough that a lot of these kids are looking for, the point at which they feel comfortable to start to engage in that environment.
Good mentors are essential for creating a successful lab. Mentors should be people that the kids can look up to and respect and see as role models. They need to be young, and they need to have shared interests with the kids. They also need to be able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk with IT. There's no room for teacher talk at the lab. They need to be able to demonstrate their ability, which will then engender respect by the kids.
The mentors in each lab session are really there to supervise the kids, but also watch for opportunities to assist them in any way they can. I like to compare mentors in some ways to very good waiters at a top restaurant. They're the guys that can look at a room and see all of their guests and know instantly if a guest is looking uncomfortable, whether they need assistance doing something, or that there might be something happening in the room that needs their attention and their care and guidance.
From 2011 till about 2013, we operated one lab in the western suburbs of Melbourne. And then we started to expand, and because there was huge demand from all over Victoria and then interstate as well. So there are now 12 labs running around Australia, everywhere from Darwin to Hobart, and they're expanding all the time and more are coming on board. To manage all that, we now have a not-for-profit company called the Lab Network, which has been set up to guide the development of labs and to help new labs get established and going. But we don't get involved with their individual day-to-day administration. Anyone who wants to start a lab can do so with the assistance of the lab network. We provide the background IT support systems, policies and manuals, procedures, that kind of thing to help labs get started, and we also help in helping them to find mentors. Anyone who wants to start a new lab will begin by trying to find a venue in their local area. Usually these venues are available for free, and that's what the lab is predicated on, unless the local people want to find local funding to rent somewhere, and that happens with some labs as well. Usually those kind of spaces are sourced through community centres, local businesses who will donate their offices for the use of the lab, government offices, sometimes some school areas, but we have to be careful that the room doesn't remind the kids too much of a classroom, because we want to be seen as apart from the way that schools operate. So the things to watch out for when looking for a space are that you need two spaces. You need one space for the kids, up to 20 kids to be able to do their lab activities, and a nearby room for the parents to meet and ideally have tea and coffee facilities, somewhere where they can sit around and chat and talk to each other. The room where the kids are ideally needs to have good internet. Nothing kills a lab more than slow internet for the kids who are very keen on being able to upload and download files quickly. There also needs to be adequate parking, and it needs to be a safe space where families can get to and from easily.
We started with one lab in Geelong, a tiny postage stamp ad, got 6 replies, and we thought, this ain't going nowhere. But within a short space of time it grew significantly, so that we had our 15 youngsters in the lab, sometimes 17 and 18. But in a year and a half, it's grown now to 3 groups, Friday night and 2 on Saturday. And now we've just opened one in Torquay. We've got a significant wait list now of around 27 willing participants. And so those people are pretty keen to get involved, so it's just managing the phone calls and telling people when they're likely to have an opportunity for the youngsters to participate. Just getting started is a fair bit of concentrated work. Making sure you've got the premises lease arrangement, or whatever it is, that the IT has got capacity, doing the speed test and so on. Just making sure that all of the activities that the youngsters are going to be doing in the lab are really fully supported. I think there's also an OH&S element. We always look at that just to make sure there are no risks on the premises that might cause an issue for the participants and the mentors.
Well, I guess when you're starting to think about setting up your lab, you'll be thinking about your financial systems and the bookkeeping there. So really thinking about the money that's going to come into the lab. That'll most likely be fees from the parents for the kids attending the lab. You might be lucky enough to secure some grants or something like that. And in terms of money going out, you'll be paying mentors weekly or fortnightly, depending on what you arrange. You'll be making payments for things like venue hire, depending on your arrangement there, and paying for things like insurance and the administration fee over to the lab network itself. So you need to think about how you're going to do that, whether you'll have a system, whether you'll go down to your local newsagent, for example, and buy a receipt book, or put something into Excel, or depending on if you're a bit bigger, maybe put something into Xero or MYOB, one of those off-the-shelf accounting packages. If you're already part of a bigger organisation, then you might just add on what happens with the lab to whatever is in your existing financial system and just have that as a separate part of the system. But you need to think about recording that money that's going in and having the facility to make payments. So the other important thing to think about is whether you'll have your own separate bank account for the lab, organising that with your local bank, or whether you'll do everything just using cash in and out. But just being really careful. Cash is a very important thing, and you have to make sure that you look after that carefully and have some good controls about handling that cash. Thinking about what type of structure would be most appropriate, and there is no one correct type. It really depends on what your local setup is. If we go to perhaps one end of the spectrum and the more complicated or sophisticated structure, you might be setting up your lab as part of an existing organisation. So we've got labs that are set up, for example, as part of YMCA or Just Better Care, and that's totally fine. The lab could be set up as a separate project or function cost centre as part of one of those. You might be a separate lab with a separate group of parents, and you might want to set up a separate legal entity for your lab, a little bit like what a lot of kindergartens do. So in that case, you can think about whether you might want to be an incorporated association or a company. The lab network itself is a public company, and another option would be to not be incorporated at all and just be something like a group that does your own separate bookkeeping and organisation. So there's quite a variety of different structures. If you do have questions or you'd like some advice about what might suit you best, give us a call, get in touch with us at the Lab Network, and we can talk you through some of them. It's also useful to talk to your local accountant or a local lawyer that specialises in charity structures. Don't be afraid to ask for some pro bono advice for them to help you out with that, and they can talk you through what are the pros and cons of each different structure. One of the other important things to think about as you're setting up your lab is insurance. You should make sure that you do have cover for the people that are attending your lab and also your mentors. Now, the type of insurance that will suit you really does depend on your structure and the arrangements that you've got with your mentors. So once you've got a bit of a sense of what your entity structure will be, how you'll set yourself up, please do get in touch with us at the Lab Network, and we can talk to you about different sorts of insurance, whether we can cover you with ours, whether you might need to get some of your own. As part of your ongoing relationship with the Lab Network, we'll be getting you to do some reporting to us on a regular basis so that we can understand what's going on at your lab, so that we can look at better ways that we can support you, and also so that we can share some learnings from your lab with some of the other labs.
So what are the next steps for you? So the next steps that we would recommend is that you now make sure you get your interest group together. You have a conversation with them and make sure that you're clear about what you want your lab to do and what you want it to be. And then contact us and we'll take it from there. We'll be able to provide you with a whole lot of resources, a whole lot of information about how to set your lab up and how to be effective with it. Along with that will come a whole range of policies and procedures that can help you to make a decision about how to run your lab. And there will be then a network with a member of the organisation that can then answer lots of questions for you as you continue your journey. So welcome to the Lab Network and good luck.